What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. NFL draft just happened. We have to talk about it. We have a very special guest. He's been on before to talk about his fandom of the then San Diego Chargers. He also helped me preview the college football playoff. The owner-operator of Turn the Page Travel, the man himself, James Paige. James, what is up?
What's going on, Brandon? Thank you again for having me on. How was the college football season preview?
I'm going to say, without looking it up, without knowing off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure we were 100% accurate.
Oh, yeah. Oh, hands down.
I think we nailed every pick.
I can't remember who we chose to win the national championship or the conference championships or the Heisman.
I'm pretty sure it was Ohio State. I think we were 100%.
I think so.
Yeah.
I think we both liked like Kansas and Missouri to win their conferences, and that was wrong.
Well, you got to have a couple wrong because you don't want to embarrass people.
Exactly.
But in general, the general vibe of it was correct, I would say.
Sure. I do think you had some really awesome choice words for Texas A&M during that.
I always do. So I will not be taking a Turn the Page travel package to College Station anytime soon. But that is okay. No offense to those people. If y'all need to get out of College Station, then maybe you need to contact Turn the Page Travel.
Anyways, out of Galveston. Hit me up.
There we go. So NFL draft, I watched all of it because I was working alongside watching the draft, as is tradition. Let's start off with the number one pick because there were a couple of different channels covering it. ESPN had several different broadcasts. I watched the main one. I hear that the game day one was better, but I thought McAfee was going to be on that. I'm not a McAfee guy. But he actually had his own separate draft cast. But I watched the main one. I know you watched NFL Network. On the ESPN one, Cam Ward out of Miami, consensus number one overall picked by the Titans. ESPN cut away from that like as he was on his way to shake Roger Goodell's hand. Is that an odd choice to you as someone who's watched the draft to where you've got a number one overall pick quarterback who is good enough to where no one's arguing over whether or not he should go number one. And then ESPN is like, all right, Cam Ward went number one. Anyways, we're going to talk about they were breaking a trade, but still.
Man, with ESPN, nothing surprises me anymore with them. Yes. I mean, the fact that they want to come out here every year and say, oh, we're not a bias towards one conference or towards one person or towards one team is a line of BS that they've been spitting since the early 90s. I remember them loving the Yankees every single year. All you heard about was the Yankees, and finally Boston dethroned them, and it was Boston for a year. Then it was back to the Yankees. Even when the Yankees sucked, it was all about the Yankees. And outside of the Southeastern Conference, the SEC biased, you hear about all the time with them. So it doesn't surprise me one bit that ESPN did that. I felt like going into the draft, Ward was like the top guy to be chosen, but also felt like there wasn't that sure cut from the end of the season to the start of the draft, that number one draft pick. Like, who's going to be that guy? I feel like it kept kind of flip-flopping until maybe the last month or so. But I feel like in the past, and they always had the one or two guys, who's going to go first out of these two guys? I don't feel like we really had that this year. And then I could be wrong. I've been stupidly busy, and NFL hasn't really been too much on my radar since the season has been over with. But usually in the past, you'd be able to just look at your phone. Oh, no, so-and-so is going to go first. And then a week later, so-and-so has hopped them, unless it's in February or something. So I didn't feel like, Cam was the sure-cut number one draft pick. I didn't feel like he was the number one guy during the whole process that we've had in the past. The Reggie Bush and Mario Williams, the Leaf and Manning, Sue, and God, I forgot who got drafted ahead of him in that particular draft when he But anyways, you had that. I don't really feel like we had that this year. I think it was kind of consensus. Okay, Ward's going to be 1, Hunter's going to be 2. The Browns are going to take Hunter, or they may take Sanders. What are they going to do? So going back to the ESPN thing, nothing surprising me about ESPN. I feel like they have the wagon they were going to hook up to.
Yeah.
And that was Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders.
They were all in on the Colorado coverage.
I mean, rightfully so. They're both kind of polarizing players.
Yep. I mean,
Hunter's
and that's what they cut in to talk about. So we will talk about Cam Ward some, but they did cut in because the Jags had traded for the number 1 pick to select Hunter, and Adam Schefter popped on with a interesting hoodie blazer combo to tell us that news very excitedly. But you're right, it was weird. And the Sioux draft, Sam Bradford with number 1.
Thank you.
Just for the record. Yep. But so what do you think about Ward as a player? I think he started his career, I forget, a small college, then went to Washington State, was really good. And then Miami last year was really good again.
Yeah, he went from Incarnate Word, unranked, like no stars, going to Incarnate Word, which I think is in Texas.
That's right, yes.
And then the only reason I remember him is because I lived in Sacramento, and Sacramento State had a really good team that year. And they faced Incarnate Word in the playoffs, and it was like a 60-something to 50-something game. They couldn't stop Ward. And then he goes to Washington State, has a great year at Washington State. Maybe
I believe it's just
a year, I feel like. And then going to Miami. I think he's a great talent. I don't know how big he is. He doesn't look big to me, but he's probably a good 6'2", 6'4", maybe.
I'm going to look it up.
I think the only thing with him is he has 6'2". I always felt like he was kind of fumble prone. And in the big games, where the games that they did lose, Miami lost this last year, it was because of his turnovers. It wasn't really because of anything else, because of his turnovers. Or when I think against Cal, where they had to come back and beat Cal, they were losing because, if I remember correctly, because of his turnovers. And I think sitting out the bowl game the second half, that made him not look great.
That was a weird choice.
Yeah.
That was definitely a weird choice. And just to circle back, so two really good years at Washington State, actually.
2 years, okay.
Yeah. So, he did at times look like he was doing too much at Miami. I wonder how much of that was the fact that Miami wasn't that good, and so he felt like he had to make a spectacular play. The bowl game thing where he played long enough to get a record and then sat out the rest of the bowl game, that was a weird thing. I kind of feel like that's just college football now, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But everything I've seen on him, he seems to be a great kid, great leader, other than the bowl game thing, of course, depending on where you fall on that. But it is weird because normally when you have a number 1 quarterback, and like you're saying, you normally have like 2 guys pitted against each other. There's just more pop surrounding it. And I don't know, to your point, if that's because Ward isn't like as great as past number 1 picks, or if it's because ESPN and other media outlets had their eyes elsewhere. Getting really hard now, and we'll talk about this more later when we talk about the Shedeur stuff. It's getting hard to really pick apart like how much stuff is sports media narrative driven versus what's actually going on. And I'm sure that's always been the case, but it feels like it's more like that now.
Well, I feel like a lot in the past, like ESPN and Fox and CBS and all those talking heads would spend months talking about 1 or 2 guys and the top 2 picks, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, but usually it's 1 or 2. And they would spend months talking about him and predicting who's going to go 1, who this person's going to jump him. Oh, this guy's going to jump him, blah, 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 over and over and over again. And I don't feel like that has happened in quite a time, for quite a moment.
Yeah. So
and I feel like it kind of happened this year. Is like, where was the buildup? And on it, obviously they didn't want buildup because they wanted to cut to the second pick.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a real
so
bummer.
They didn't give a crap about Ward. They don't care what he did. It's like, okay, he's going to be the number 1 draft pick. But now we got the second draft pick. Oh, wait. there's a massive trade between Cleveland and Jacksonville. Let's jump to this story instead of giving the number 1 draft pick, who should be like the talk of the draft for the least first 10 picks, his due.
Yeah.
So
really, really was a bummer. But yeah, like you're saying, that's great. That's great insight that you kept up with him when he was at Incarnate Word. That is, no one on ESPN was talking about that. And going to the Titans, I'm always worried when someone goes to the Titans, number 1.
That's fair.
Because they tried it with Will Levis. They tried it with Malik Willis. Hasn't been great. They don't have a ton. Last year, they didn't have a ton of playmakers. They've tried to go out and get playmakers. I know they signed Tyler Lockett and Van Jefferson, who were 2 decent wide receivers. They drafted the wide receiver DK out of Florida, who performed well at the combine. I think he transferred from Wisconsin, and he had a pretty good season at Florida, as good as you were going to have at Florida this past year. And then Iomenor, I believe I'm saying that correctly, out of Stanford, who was really productive out there. Oh, yeah. So they're trying to get playmakers, but I am worried that it's going to be more of the same that Levis and Willis had to deal with, where it's like, all right, good luck, go out there and make something happen with nothing. And I don't like seeing that for young quarterbacks.
Oh, no. I feel like when the Titans got rid of Rabel as their head coach, I mean, I feel like he did a lot with very little with Tennessee. And they made the playoffs, I believe, a couple times with him.
Yeah. I think, Ryan Tannehill was cutting up out there.
Yeah, exactly. So. It's like, why'd you fire him? Yeah, he had a bad year or two, maybe more than that. I don't keep up with the Titans, but when I thought of the Titans, I thought of Rabel, and I was like, that's going to be a tough-nosed team. And then he gets fired, and you kind of see what he was working with. And I don't even know who the coach is there. That's how much I don't even pay attention to Tennessee.
I'm going to tell you because it's going to mean a lot to you as a Nebraska guy.
Uh-oh.
So you have your thoughts on Cam Ward going to the Titans. Now I'll tell you the head coach of the Titans, Brian Callahan, Bill Callahan's son. And Bill Callahan is on the staff. Yep, Bill Callahan's on the staff. Now how do you feel about Cam Ward's future?
I don't know shit about Callahan's son. I know Callahan was a good offensive mind and is a really good offensive line coach in the NFL. I don't know crap about his son.
Okay, so there is some sort of optimism offensively with Bill Callahan being involved. Let me get his exact. So he's the offensive line coach for the Titans. So you would think Ward would be protected.
Yeah, I think he's a really good offensive line coach. I feel like he was like North Turner, a better coordinator, better position coach. Not a very good head coach. I feel like Callahan was the same thing. Callahan was doing okay at Nebraska. He had a lot of things he had to change in the early 2000s. And the fans were still kind of uppity, thinking that they should be in national championships every year. And so when he started throwing the ball instead of running the ball and they weren't making the big-time bowl games, that's why I feel like he got canned. But he had a lot of good players drafted, and a lot of good players came through Nebraska at that time. I don't feel like he had an opportunity to really put his stamp on things at Nebraska, not to make this a Nebraska-centric segment.
Okay. Well, now I'm feeling better about Cam Ward's chances because they are trying to get him playmakers. That's the number one. Well, the number one question is always offensive line for me with quarterbacks. Yeah. So you've answered that. The playmaker thing is number two. They're working towards that. They at least are aware of it. So you know what? I'm feeling pretty good about Ward now.
Well, I mean, you can have a good offensive line coach or a great offensive line coach, but if he doesn't have an offensive line worth a damn, it's not much he can do.
Oh, I'm a Gamecock fan. I know about that. But I am optimistic. I'm optimistic.
Right.
So there we go. Okay. Cam Ward seems like a decent number one pick. I just did a whole episode. What's that?
Besides Hunter, maybe Carter.
Yeah, Abdul Carter.
Gone number one.
So this is I guess kind of the talking point with this draft has been not a ton of like high level talent where there's like a surefire, like you were saying, number one overall pick, just kind of like a lot of like very good players, but no one who's like back in the day, Andrew Luck. I remember like this was a guaranteed number one pick.
Yeah.
Did not matter what he did. He was going number one. No one really like that. So
I don't think we're going to get that till next year. If Manny comes out. I think if Manny comes out and you have, crap, my mind is blanked. Levitt, the quarterback at Arizona State. Shoot.
So, I mean, in general, I feel like if you're the Titans and you'd need a quarterback.
Yeah.
I saw that last year they tried the Will Levis thing. Pretty obvious early on, wasn't going to happen. So, not a bad number one pick if you're going to get the number one pick in this year's draft. Moving on to number 2, you got Travis Hunter going to the Jags. They traded the number 5 pick, number 36, number 126, and next year's first round pick to the Browns for the 104 and the 200 to take him. Heisman winner, plays both sides of the ball. I believe the plan is to be mostly receiver and come in at spots at cornerback. What do you think about Hunter as a player and then also his fit on the Jags with quarterback, former Clemson Tiger, Trevor Lawrence? Yeah.
Sunshine.
Yep.
I feel like that draft, the first thing that popped into my head, that trade, the first thing that popped into my head was Mike Ditka in the fake dreads when he gave up
Ricky
all
Williams.
their draft picks for Ricky Williams. That's the first thing that crossed my mind when I saw what they gave up. But at the same time, they got some in return, not just all their draft picks for one player. I think Travis, he's a great player, hands down. I can't even argue with it. I think he was a better receiver than he was corner.
Yeah.
If you look at his stats, if I remember correctly, he had several 100-yard games against him. If you're a shutdown corner, you don't have that in college. He's a great receiver. He's one of, I think that Colorado had 3 really good weapons on the outside, and he was 1A or maybe 1B. I kind of feel like Horn Jr. was a little bit better than he was, which I think he was drafted 5th or 6th round, I feel like.
Yeah.
Horn Jr. was.
Panthers.
Which surprised the hell out of me. But he's a great athlete. I don't know, will he be able to play both sides like he wants? I mean, they're building him up for the Swiss Army knife of players. Can it happen? Yeah. I mean, Deion kind of did it during his career. He was mainly a punt return, kick return, DB. Sometimes he was out on the field as a receiver. Can his body work the whole 16 games, 17 games?
Yep. That's the question for me. 6'1", 185. Deion was actually the last guy to start 8 positions on offense and defense. He did that with the Cowboys.
I can see that.
Started 8 games at receiver and defensive back. Well, he probably started more games, but that was the cutoff on the ESPN stat. That's what I think. I think it's probably best for him to focus on receiver. Just because, I mean, it's such a grind to play both ways, like you were saying.
You don't have small receivers in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that would also help him clean up some of the stuff on the receiving side of things, like the route running and everything that made it to like, okay, we need to add a little polish. I think being able to focus mostly on one position would help with that kind of stuff.
I can see him being a situational defender, maybe a nickelback, maybe.
Yeah.
Just when they need an extra DB out there. He's quick, he's fast. He's a little on the smaller side, but get into a good weight program with the NFL. He's going to have the money to be able to do that.
Yep.
He's going to gain some strength. I agree. I think being a receiver is probably his best bet. Not saying he can't play both. Playing every single down in the NFL, it's
seems crazy.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, but you've seen last couple of years, 2 years ago, to be fair, when he got hurt the first time, he got cheap shotted by the Colorado State guy.
Yeah.
But then last year, I feel like he missed a couple halves or a couple quarters due to some injuries being nicked up. That's just playing in college against guys who are not 6'4", 220 pounds. So I wonder how well his body's going to hold up. I'm not saying he can't do it. He probably can do it for the first couple of years. I just don't see it being something that's going to stay in his career as he moves on. I think as he gets maybe 5-6 years down the line, he's going to have to choose one side or the other.
Yeah, and I mean, we haven't seen anybody really do it, so that makes sense. And it's really hard. The fact that he did it at the level he did it at in college is impressive.
And I'll say this about Travis. When he came from Jackson State to FBS to Colorado, I was one of those, like, I don't know if he can do it. Because Jackson State, HBCU schools, not the cream of the crop players. They want to play. They have the passion for the game. They're just not the top-end players that he's going to face when he came to Colorado. And he proved me wrong. I always thought he was a good talent, great talent, but the fact that he did it for 2 years and what he did for 2 years, yeah, he wasn't – I don't think he was the best of the best, but he was good enough to be able to play both sides and people to talk about him and people to adjust their schemes around him.
Yeah. Yeah, so now very curious to see. I know Jacksonville's got the new coach, Liam Cohen, and he seems to be – the way he's been talking, you never know until you see it on the field, but he seems to be talking like he really wants to throw the ball and let Trevor Lawrence kind of unleash Trevor Lawrence, if you will. So I am curious. He could see like a lot of targets this year. I would imagine he would.
I would think so. I really don't know what Jacksonville has off the top of my head without really looking deep into what they drafted and what they've had or what they have coming in next year. I feel like Trevor has shown glimpses of being above mediocre quarterback and maybe, I don't want to say great, but good quarterback. But then I also think you've seen glimpses of you might be a bust. You know, it just kind of depends on what week.
It's so tough because I naturally want to hate on him because he went to Clemson, right? But, man, he's had such a terrible start in terms of you start off with Urban Meyer as your coach.
That's all I was just thinking.
And then Doug Peterson, you get Doug Peterson, and he looked decent under Peterson year 2, but it's still Doug Peterson. And then last year, of course, when the wheels fell off the old Doug Peterson bus and Trevor didn't look quite as good. He had the 2 good years with Peterson. Let me double check the 2 good years, and then everything just came apart last season, and they were just pitiful offensively. So, I don't know if we've really gotten enough, even 4 seasons in, to be able to say one way or another about Trevor, and he got hurt last year too. Yeah. And so if anyone was going to judge him harshly, it would be me, but I can't even bring myself to do it yet. Now, I'm getting close, and I won't mind doing it when it happens. But
I feel like right now he's more of an also played.
Yeah.
No, he had a couple years in the NFL, or he jumped around like what was that Fitzpatrick?
Yeah, Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Ryan. He went everywhere.
Yeah,
he also played. So I think right now Lawrence is kind of, to me, anyways, he's on that cusp of being an also played and all to being a good quarterback. Hopefully, this is his 3rd, 4th head coach he's had in 4 years.
Yeah,
I mean that he means he's going to be a different offensive coordinator too. So it's kind of hard to gauge. I'm not a Clemson fan, never have been, but I do give players their dues, and I feel like he's kind of been stuck behind the 8 ball, especially with Urban Meyer there, all that crap that went on there.
Yeah.
And then, he had a decent year 2 years ago, got banged up last year. Let's kind of see what he does with this new guy who, if you're a Jags fan, I'm sorry, your head coach seems like a douche to me. But we'll see what he does.
You didn't like that press conference with the Duval? I don't know, man. I think he's either going to be like hilarious and entertaining, or a complete bust. I don't think there's any middle ground with Liam Cohen. And that's all I can really ask for, is someone who watches just be entertaining, but he's not going to be like a Jeff Fisher middle of the road guy. Like, it's either going to go well and we'll be like, this weirdo can coach, or they'll go 1-16 and we'll have something to laugh about. And it's a win-win for me.
Well, it kind of reminds me of the guy, I forgot his fucking name. I was just talking about him earlier today with a buddy of mine, the guy from Miami.
McDaniel.
There we go. Yeah. You kind of remind me of McDaniel. Like, he had a really good year. He was the guru. And then last year they've kind of fallen off, and now there's stories of the veterans going, we don't like this guy, and leaving type of deal. So hopefully that's not what's going to happen with Jacksonville, but it might. Might have a year or two of success like McDaniel did, and they slowly fall apart. But at the same time, McDaniel also has a quarterback who should probably be wrapped in bubble wrap.
Yeah. So, all right, moving on to the rest of the first round. What were some of your favorite picks that happened where you're like, okay, this makes sense. This is great value. I can see how this will probably work out.
For me, it was the next two picks, actually. The number 3, Abdul Carter, going to the Giants, and then the number 4, Will Campbell, going to the Patriots. Patriots haven't drafted an offensive line in the first round, I believe, in 3 or 4 years. And I feel like Campbell, he was, if I remember correctly, was a starter as a freshman at LSU. I don't know if he was a left tackle or right tackle starter, but this year he was a left tackle.
Yeah.
So that tells me he's got some skill and talent. And I think he has some really long arms as well, which is going to help him as a tackle. Carter, I feel like, could have been a second pick, maybe. If the Browns or Jacksonville didn't need a corner, they needed a defensive lineman, I could have seen Abdul Carter be the second, maybe even first pick. I think he is that good of a player.
I agree completely on Carter. That's why I was shocked to see the Giants make the pick. Because to me, you asked it earlier, if anyone else had gone number 1, I thought it was going to be Abdul Carter. Obviously, teams put a little bit more of you get that little quarterback bump if you're anywhere close to being the number 1 pick and a team needs a quarterback. But Abdul Carter, complete monster at Penn State. Like, this dude is awesome. Obviously, you get all the Micah Parsons comps with that as well.
Yeah.
So really good pick by the Giants.
Yeah.
There.
I think they should do something right.
Yeah. And then Campbell just seems like if you were to create an offensive lineman in a lab, specifically like his mindset, and just listening to him talk in interviews, like he seemed like he's the perfect left tackle. I know they're trying to figure out what they're doing with Drake May and keep him protected. And so that is a huge step in the right direction there. What'd you think about Genty to the Raiders? Did you like that pick?
It doesn't surprise me, but Genty, I like him. I think he's a great running back. I worry about the tread on his tires.
Yeah, a lot of work as a college runner.
I almost feel like he had almost 300 carries last year.
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure he did.
And that's
a lot.
Yeah, especially nowadays in the NFL where running backs, if they get into their 30s, they're already early 30s. Teams are already looking at replacing them.
Yeah.
And now how much tread is there on his tires? I like him as a player. I feel like 6 is a little too high for him. My head, I could see him been a late first-round pick. I don't know if – I almost said Oakland. I don't know if Las Vegas I don't know if they needed a running back, and that's why they took him, or what their needs were. But,
so I believe they did need a running back. I know Pete Carroll is the head coach now. He always loves a running back.
That's true.
Except that one goal line incident in the Super Bowl, and then he didn't. They do have Raheem Mostert there. I like the fit between him and Carroll. I do think, just looking up, 374 carries last year.
Jesus.
So that is the concern, is like, when do his knees turn to pulled pork? Yeah. Because that's just what happens with running back. So I don't know how many years you get from him, but I do think whatever they get from him should be good.
I would think so. I don't think it's a bad running back. I'm just worried about the tread on the tires.
And it's tough in today's NFL too.
It is. But at the same time, if you look at their schedule from last year, Boise State's, the 2 most physical teams they faced is Penn State and Oregon.
Yeah. So
everybody else was a Mountain West team, or I think they had an FCS team in there, I feel like. I could be wrong. So my point being with that is, once you get outside of the non-Power 4 schools, you're not getting them huge monsters landing on you every time. You're not getting that 6'7", 320-pound nose tackle or defensive end who could run like a gazelle, tracking you down, landing on you every time you carry the ball, like you do with like Donovan Edwards or Junkins and all them. Those guys.
Yeah.
But they're not getting 300 carries a game, or not game a year.
Yeah. So this guy is the absolute outlier. So it's silly to use him as an example, but I'm going to do it anyways. Derrick Henry, his last year at Bama, 395 carries.
Yeah, but wasn't he also bigger?
Yep, but that's okay because it helps me prove my point. So I can ignore that in the context of it making me feel better about what's happening. Also, a second-round pick, Henry.
Genty's only 5'8".
That's okay. He can still grow. He's waiting for his growth spurt. Once he gets something about Las Vegas, something happens out there, he'll be fine.
He's 5'8", dude.
So
I like him. I just think 6 is too high. I don't see. He proved me wrong, and he probably will because that happens all the time. I feel like he should be in the 20s. Maybe him and Hampton could have switched spots. Hampton, the guy from North Carolina,
who
was
to the Chargers.
Chargers.
Yeah.
Maybe.
I like Hampton, yeah.
But yeah, that's my unofficial. That's my uneducated
guess on Genty.
Genty.
Okay. Well,
when we did our college review, I called him Gentry, so that tells you how much I know about him.
So Genty now. We're clear on that.
Yeah.
So what were some confusing picks in the first round for you where you were like, what was this team thinking?
I had 3. One of them, 4. One of them is the offensive tackle, Membo for the Giants, or Jets, from Missouri.
Yes.
I don't know anything about him, so that's why it's confusing to me. The young man from Arizona, I feel like he may have gone a little too high, but the Panthers are trying to get him.
Teteroa McMillan. Yeah, that one shocked me. I thought they were going defense there.
Yeah,
and
me
then
too.
They picked him, and ESPN, for whatever it's worth, again, draft rankings, had him 13th. They picked him 8th.
Was Egbuka from Ohio State? I feel like he
went 19th to Tampa Bay, and I liked him a lot. I liked him more than McMillan.
I could have seen him go be the first receiver off the board. T. McMillan, when I saw that, that kind of confused me a little bit.
Yeah.
The other two that confused me a little bit was the Cowboys pick, Tyler Booker. Guard at 12.
They love drafting offensive linemen. That's
like
their thing.
Yeah, they usually have a really decent offensive line. That's just one of those picks that if he was a tackle, I can see it.
Yeah, but a guard.
But I don't know. I think it's strictly a guard. You can say, well, James, the guy from North Dakota State, went 18 to the Seahawks. He was a guard. Yeah, but he also played center, and I think he could jump out to the tackle position. To my knowledge, Booker is strictly just a guard.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that was a panic move because I know Zach Martin retired, and so they're like, we got to fill this because that did seem like a little bit of a reach. But again, yeah, there were other offensive linemen available, but they are addicted to drafting offensive linemen high. I will say that.
Which I'm fine. I played offensive line. I like it. I think it's a very underrated position outside of people who know football. That particular pick confused me.
That was weird.
And the last pick that got my attention was Dart going in the high first round. I don't know.
This one blew my mind. Okay, especially the Giants traded back into the first round after making such a good first pick with Carter to get Dart. I've watched a lot of Jackson Dart just as an SEC football player. He's got the measurables, I guess, but he seemed much more like a product of Lane Kiffin's offense than like a great quarterback to me. And
I feel like he's missing something. I just don't know what it is, and I think he just hit the nail on the head. I hate the phrase system quarterback, but Lane Kiffin's system quarterback.
Yeah.
Does he have the intangibles? Maybe. He's a hard-nosed player. He'll put his nose down and run you over. if you're in his way. I worry about some of his decision making. When you watched him against some good teams, yes, they beat Georgia. Georgia has been kind of a shell of themselves in the last couple of years, in my opinion. They're still good. They're winning off of sheer talent, but there's still something missing at Georgia. Maybe too many DUIs and tickets. I don't know.
Yeah, they got to get some driving lessons there and get that under control.
But when you see him playing against other teams, you have teams that they're supposed to beat. Why are they losing? Why is he throwing bad interceptions?
Yeah. And again, like you're saying, like a good athlete, he can run it, he can throw it, but does he always throw it where it's supposed to go? And I don't know, man. I just could not believe that's who they traded back into the first round to pick. Yeah. And he's sitting behind Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston. So I guess it's good he's probably not going to be starting right away. But just a very bizarre quarterback room. Yeah. I don't even know what's going on. And it just like, y'all made such a good pick with Carter. I don't know why you would do this. I don't know. That was the most confusing one for me. I was like, okay.
Yeah, that was a confusing one. I mean, they have the quarterback coach used to be at Buffalo who worked with Josh Allen. Maybe they're hoping that darts, Josh Allen 2.0. Maybe.
Yeah. Well,
I don't know. Because
we'll see on that. I will. Yeah. I don't know.
Like you said, it was when they moved up to get that draft pick. Like I think everybody went, okay, they're going to go after Sanders. They're going to pick up Sanders, and then it's Dart. And I think everybody, even if you don't like Sanders, I think everybody went, what?
Yeah, very confusing.
Yeah, that is probably the most confusing pick out of the first round. That for me that goes, why did they do this?
Yeah, I don't know. So
you guys had your shit going with Carter's pick, with the pick for Carter. Look like you guys were on the right track. We already know what happened with Saquon last year. I mean, all that shit went down, and everybody saw it on TV and how inept you guys are. Maybe you're turning the corner. Oh, wait, let's go down to pick 25 and go, fuck, never mind. You just peeked around that corner real quick, and you're going back to your –
You just got to go there. You got to go back to your own ways, old ways. It's very, very strange. So now we do have to talk about Shedeur Sanders and his drop. And it dominated all of the coverage on ESPN. Mel Kiper Jr. was about to go fight somebody, probably everybody.
Yeah.
And I will say on the front end,
had to jump in and tell him to relax a little bit.
Yeah, he was getting a little unhinged, and I've got some Mel Kiper thoughts too in a bit. So I will say on the front end, if you listen to this, you probably know, if you're familiar with me, I do believe race is a factor in just everything that we do. I don't think it was the main factor that Shedeur dropped in the draft. I think that there were several things that went into him falling that I would place above him being a black quarterback. And so we're going to stick to that today because I don't want to – I'm not in the mood to give a college lecture today. I might be soon, but not today. So let's talk about Shedeur, the quarterback.
Okay.
You are familiar with him. Mm-hmm. What did you?
I watched him play.
Okay, yeah.
I don't know the guy.
You're not friends, but you watched him play. So if we strip away, we don't know who this quarterback is. He's just a quarterback. What round would you have thought that he would have gone in if he was just a quarterback? Last name is Silvers, just anonymous guy.
Second or third.
So this is where I'm at with it. Like, I thought he was a second or third round talent. People who are smarter than me, and there's not that many, but they had him as a second or third round. People I trust who break down film, they had him as a second or third round talent. This was like one of the bigger reasons I think he fell is I think he approached it like he was a top 5 pick. He approached the draft process like he was a top 5 pick when really he was a second or third round talent. And you can kind of like, the more talented you are, this is true for all aspects of life. The more talented you are, the more of an asshole you can get away with being.
Hmm.
And I think he kind of overestimated how good he was. But I don't think he was the only one. I think that this is more of an indictment on NFL draft pundits and sports media, because that's who was hyping him as a top 5 pick. And that's another lecture I will have another day as well, because I think that too often the loudest microphones are given to the hot take artists versus the people who actually know what they're doing.
Yeah, and I agree.
But then I think when you added it all together and you get some of the, like, he interviewed very poorly from what everyone's saying. He's got a lot that comes along with him. If you're not going to draft him to be your starter, is he worth any of that distraction as your backup? Teams seem to say no, and so he drops to the 5th round, which was crazy to me. I mean, I wasn't as upset as Mel Kiper, but I don't know. It was just a whole thing that was just kind of hanging over the draft, and like all 3 days, like all Thursday, then Friday, and then Saturday, we had to hear about this.
I feel like the term generational talent gets thrown around way too easy nowadays.
Every sport, it's terrible.
And I feel like that could have been thrown at him. Oh, he's generational talent. Okay, if you strip everything away, strip down his last name, he stripped down the color of his skin, he stripped down the teams he played on, was he generational talent? No.
Yeah.
Could he throw the ball? Yes. Well, he had the highest completion percentage in the league or in the country. He did. And I'm going to play this card, which I play with every quarterback, is we'll look at his weapons he had. He had 3 really good receivers. All 3 were drafted this year. I can say the same thing about Howard. Howard was not a good quarterback at Kansas State. Let me rephrase that. Howard was not a good throwing quarterback at Kansas State. Hard-nosed kid, would put his nose down and run you over like we said that Dart will do. He goes to Ohio State, and he has a slew of weapons. And now he has increased his stock. If he didn't go to Ohio State, I don't think he gets drafted. Maybe 7th round he would have got drafted if he was still at Kansas State. Maybe. Same thing with Shedeur. He had talent around him. Now, is he untalented? No. I think he's got good pedigree. I mean, his daddy played in the NFL. His daddy knows how to prepare for the NFL. Well, let me rephrase it. He retired early 2000, late 90s.
Yeah. I think he came back briefly early 2000s. Yeah.
Yeah, so back then he knew how to prepare for the NFL. It's a different NFL than what it was back when Dion played.
Yeah.
My point being is he a good quarterback? Yes, he is a good quarterback. Should he have been drafted 5th? I could have seen, like I said, if he stripped everything away, I could see him being like a Drew Brees, being drafted in that early 2nd round and being a developed quarterback. You know, he was drafted San Diego when they were in San Diego. They picked up LaDainian Thomas in the 1st round, and then the very next pick was Drew Brees. And Drew Brees learned, I think, from Doug Flutie. And they got the start, and then they picked up Phillip Rivers, and then Brees left. But I feel like Shedeur stripped everything away, could have been in that mold. I think with him, his downfall was kind of a lack of accountability.
Yeah. It seemed like he didn't want to be that guy, really. Yeah. Like, it seems like coaches did not get that vibe that he was okay to come in and learn, which is a shame because he really did good. Similar to what you were saying about Travis Hunter going from Jackson State to Colorado. Like, he is not an athletic freak, especially not. You would think Deion Sanders' kid would be an athletic freak because Deion's one of the greatest athletes ever. Not really an athletic freak, like an average athlete at quarterback, I would say, and kind of built funny too. And he came in and he did play well. Even like you say, he did have a ton of weapons, but he did play. I feel like he exceeded my expectations at least.
Oh, me too. I don't know if I told you or maybe I told somebody else. But like when he went from Jackson State to Colorado, I was like, I don't think he's going to do well because the secondaries and defenses are 2 different things.
Yeah.
Where you face Jackson State, we saw when they got in the big games at Jackson State, they couldn't win. So how is he going to win in FBS? He proved me wrong. I will eat that crow right here, right now. with your billions of subscribers. I will eat crow. I thought he would not do well. He did. First 2 years, he did really well. My issue with Shedeur was his lack of accountability. I mean, he gets sacked a lot. Well, how many times did Raiola get sacked? Well, how long did Raiola hold on to the ball?
And so that's like a twofold issue, because not only is he holding onto the ball too long, but also not taking accountability. And that's what they love quarterbacks to do in the NFL, like team first, whatever. Even if the guy is lying about it, like that's how they want you to be. And he didn't fit that mold, and it scared teams off.
No, that's a really good point.
And it is crazy because like I was not expecting him. No one was expecting him, obviously, to go above Cam Ward, except maybe the Sanders family. Like Ward was going number one. The trading back in to get Dart was confusing, but I can see why you would pick Dart ahead of Shedeur. I mean, just athletically, there's probably a little bit more to work with, but it was close. Now let's talk about the other quarterbacks that went before him. And also, there were only 6 quarterbacks drafted. Well, he was the 6th quarterback drafted, and he went in the 5th round. Last year, there were 6 quarterbacks drafted in the 1st round. So this was not a quarterback talent draft by any means. So we'll start with Dart.
Line heavy this year.
Yeah. There was definitely a trenches draft. Yeah. So do you have better player if you take away everything, Dart or Sanders? Who do you got?
I think they're about on par.
Yeah, it's close enough where I don't think it was like I would not have been shocked if Sanders had gone where Dart was, so long as someone didn't trade back in to get him.
The only thing I think that would put Dart slightly above Sanders is his ability to run.
Yeah.
He's back there. It breaks down. He doesn't stand back there. He goes, fuck it, I'm going to take off. No, so I think that would be the only thing that I would put him slightly above Sanders with, because Sanders would stay back there.
Yep.
And stay back there and stay back there. And it doesn't – for all of you Sanders fans, well, he kept getting sacked. He did get sacked a lot, but it's really hard as an offensive lineman to block for 7 seconds.
Yes, go try it.
When against the – there are team times where they got their ass kicked. Nebraska, they were in the backfield like that. But there were games against Baylor, I think it was Kansas as well, where not last year before. He got better this year, okay? So I want to put that out there. Like, he got better this year.
Yeah.
But the year before, I sat there and I counted with my fingers. 1, 2, 3. Still has the ball. 4, 5. Now he's getting pressured. 6, 7. He gets sacked. Next play, 1, 2. Balls out of his hands, completed, no sack. Next play, 1, 2, 3. Balls out of his hands, completed. Oh, who would have thought? Next play, 5 seconds. He's getting pressured. So it's not all his offensive line. I think that's what bugs me the most about him. And even his coach. Well, the offensive line, when you got a new offensive coordinator and he finally listened to his offensive coordinator, that's where I think he took steps and bounds. From 2 years ago with, I forgot the guy's name, he's now at San Diego State, to this year when to me, I feel like he finally started listening to his offensive coordinator about, hey, I want you to throw here, I want you to throw here, I want you to throw here. If he's not there, I want you to run. Once he started learning that or listening, I feel like that you saw his game elevate. I still don't think he's a first-round draft pick. I still see him as a second-round draft pick because I worry how much of that he's going to listen to in the NFL. If it took 2 years of him getting constantly pounded into the dirt for him to finally go, maybe I should listen to my coordinator. In my opinion, that's what I feel like happened anyways.
Yeah.
Because I feel like what he saw then last year, or 2 years ago, I should say, first part of this year, I mean this year as in this last season, and then after the Nebraska game where he was just beat up, and then every game after that, I feel like it was a complete night and day difference between how he played and how he quarterbacked. Like, he didn't hold on to the ball as much. His offensive line is a solid offensive line. So he didn't have it for as long, or he didn't have the ball for as long, and he was able to throw on time. He was able to throw his receivers open, and he became more of a weapon. When their offense struggled is when he went back to, I want to hold on to the ball and wait for Hunter to get open on a freaking a seam route or wait for Horn Jr. to come across somewhere. All my guys are 20 yards downfield, and now I'm getting pressure because they weren't open. Now my offensive line is cracking. So that's my take.
Okay. And speaking of second-round picks, the Saints, another team that needed a quarterback, they drafted Taylor Shuck in the second round.
What the fuck?
Yeah, Taylor Shuck, what the fuck? Do you have Sanders or Shuck? Who do you have better in case we did not get it with that reaction?
Oh, Sanders.
That was insane. The kid, Shuck, sure he's a nice guy. I'm sure he deserves a nice travel package from Turn the Page Travel. Also, he is older than I am, and he's been injured 37 times.
What?
I don't know what that was about. That was
Two
crazy.
broken legs?
He was
Or was it
breaking
broken arm?
everything. I couldn't
Yeah.
believe it. They said
Yeah, that was another one. That was another one of those. What? The
he
Saints
was
drafted
Herbert's backup at Oregon.
He was. He was 27, 26?
Yeah, 26, I believe. Like, I couldn't. This is when I started getting confused about the Sanders drop. I mean,
Yeah.
even if he came in and took a dump on someone's desk, like drafting Taylor Shuck over him, I don't understand. But
Yeah.
okay, that's bizarre.
I don't know what to say.
So we'll move past it. We'll move past it because I don't understand. So, third round pick, Jalen Milroe to the Seahawks. Jalen Milroe or Shedeur Sanders, who are you taking?
God, that's a tough one.
Yes. So I think I'm leaning Milroe here.
I'm leaning Milroe just slightly just because of the amount of big games he was a part of.
Yep, like an elite athlete at quarterback, got a big arm, sometimes does not make the best decisions, sometimes isn't the most accurate, but I can see how in the third round especially, you look at Jalen Milroe and you look at his measurables and his production in big games when he had big games at Bama, and you're like, man, if I can get this guy to make better reads and throw the ball where he's trying to throw it, he could be a star. Kind of similar to what we've seen with Jalen Hurts, another former Bama guy. Like, great athlete, not always the best passer. I think Milroe's got a stronger arm. But maybe he could lead our team to the Super Bowl one day. So that's why I would lean Milroe over Sanders there. Certainly better than Tyler Shuck, though.
Well, see, now you're making me – because I still feel like Sanders should have been a second, maybe third. I feel like Milroe, there we go, Paige, was drafted a little too high. I think he was a fourth-round quarterback, in my opinion.
I could see that, too.
I would still slightly lean towards him just because of the big game thing. I mean – how many big games was Colorado in? Minus the Nebraska game last year, where really that game didn't get ugly because your favorite old OC was the OC of Nebraska at that time.
Yes, sir, Mr. Satterfield.
Yeah. But that could have been an even uglier game, and they scored a touchdown against, I think, second-string Nebraska defenders.
Yeah.
What other big game was Colorado in? They went against Kansas. Kansas embarrassed them. I'm not afraid they didn't embarrass them. They fought back against Kansas. That's one thing I did notice about Colorado going to a college trip here is they would give up big leads and then have a spurt of coming back and either winning it last second like they did against Baylor or coming up close but not quite there like they did against Kansas and I think BYU, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah, so I slight lean Milroe for both of us, I believe. Next one, third round, Browns, Dylan Gabriel, who started his career at UCF, was really good, then moved on to Oklahoma, finished up at Oregon last year. The all-time leader in passing touchdowns in FBS.
He had a longer college career than freaking Rivers had a pro career, dude.
Yeah. He played forever, so that's why. But you have Gabriel or Shedeur Sanders?
No, I think both because the Browns,
do. Yeah, they do. I've got Sanders over Gabriel.
Yeah, I think so too. I think Gabriel's not very big. He's not very tall. Did okay at UCF. Oklahoma had weapons around him. Oregon had weapons around him. But again, in big games, he kind of disappeared sometimes.
So now we have to talk about what the Browns were doing in the draft. Okay? So not only did they...
If the Browns don't know what the hell they're doing, what makes you think we know what the hell they're doing?
That's true. So they draft Gabriel in the 3rd round as a quarterback, then draft Sanders in the 5th. They also drafted Quinshawn Judkins in the 2nd round.
I like that draft. I like that pick.
And then they drafted the Tennessee running back Dylan Sampson in the 4th round. And my dog barks. He didn't like that pick either. He was like, why are you drafting multiple of the same positions over and over again when you're a team that needs a great deal of help? What were they thinking?
Well, we saw Washington do it with Griffin and
Kirk Cousins. Yeah, they did that. Yeah, and I guess it worked out. I guess you're just like, let's just have
both on the team still.
The hugest quarterback room. So I think the Browns will have, Deshaun Watson keeps tearing his Achilles.
Yep, and then Joe Flacco and
Kenny Pickett.
There we go. That's him. Yeah,
Kenny Pickett, and now Sanders and Gabriel. But I don't understand the multiple drafting of positions when you're a team that is as bad as the Browns have been. That's weird to me.
Did you watch the? I don't think you watched the ESPN and the War Room after they selected Sanders.
No, I couldn't.
I only saw a glimpse of it, so I can't tell for the whole video. But you know how they make a selection, they're all high fiving and hugging and shaking hands.
I did see this clip. They look like they were at a funeral.
Yeah. And yes. It's like, if you're going to draft somebody you're not excited by, why draft them? I don't care what their name is. If you're not excited by him, why draft him?
Sounds like it was an owner decision, I bet. I bet he was like, hey, we got to get him.
He's available to go get him. It's like, all right. Yeah. No one's happy.
So I didn't understand them doing that, especially since they were in mourning afterwards. And then I also didn't understand the Steelers not drafting Sanders at some point.
Yeah,
because they needed a quarterback, and I know
they're somebody.
I know they did end up drafting Will Howard eventually.
Yeah,
but they're waiting to hear about Aaron Rodgers signing. I know that. However good you think he is now, I don't. But it seems like Mike Tomlin, who I like as a coach, but he seems obsessed with winning by scoring the fewest amount of points possible.
I think it's something about that color combination, the black and yellow, because Iowa does the same thing.
Yeah. It's disgusting. So, I don't know.
Defense, and you're going to win when you're down 6-3.
Yes.
They're going to somehow figure it out.
We'll make it happen. So, all right. That's our Shedeur Sanders segment of the day. So there we go. The rest of the draft, what were your sleeper picks, guys that you should look for moving forward?
Well, I think the Junkins pick for in the second round, late second round, I know running backs don't really have a long shelf life as we spoke earlier, but I think 3 or 4 were taken in the first.
Yeah.
I thought he was 1A or 1B in the running backs. So the fact that Cleveland got him in the second round, I agree with that. Sleeper picks. I just thought of one too.
I will run through mine real quick if you want me to.
Please go ahead.
So I like
Rolodex.
Jaden Higgins to the Texans, wide receiver from Iowa State, reminded me a lot of Mike Evans when I watched him play. He's a huge guy, like 6'4". Really liked him, and the Texans wide receivers are always hurt. Similar, I like Luther Burden to the Bears in the second round. I think that he would have gone a lot higher if he had not gone to Missouri for college.
Okay, that's fair.
I believe he was the number 1 high school recruit coming out too. So interesting that he went to Missouri, but just explosive athlete. Really like him. Like the fact that they're trying to get Caleb Williams some weapons. My homer picks would be Aronde Gadsden II to the Chargers. His dad's from Charleston, went to Burke. He reminds me a lot of him. Like, got great hands, huge target. I think he was a wide receiver at Syracuse. I think he's switching to tight end. And then another Charger pick, Kyle Kennard from South Carolina, monster pass rusher, changed what that Gamecock defense looked like last year because he was so good at getting to the quarterback. I couldn't believe he dropped so low. But again, I'm incredibly biased.
No, I know. I heard.
Yeah, yep, you've heard. Also, the most surprising thing to me was how many dead animals Quinn Ewers had in his home.
Oh shit! Huh? Damn.
He had a dead animal for every person picked ahead of him in the draft. I'd never seen anything like it.
That was so weird.
Yeah, so those are my surprise sleeper picks and my biggest surprise.
You know what? Going through my Rolodex here, this guy from Boston College, Donovan Ezeruaku. I butchered the hell out of his last name, so if he watches, sorry.
We apologize.
He was a defensive end for Boston College. He was an All-American. Didn't play in the bowl game against Nebraska. I think if he played in that bowl game, his stock would have risen, risen, a little bit higher
like
than
Christ.
Don't get me started on that. Then the second rounder, I think he's a solid player, really good player. I think he's very underdeveloped. He had a breakout year last year. I think I don't quite know how big he is off the top of my head.
Got it, 6'3", 248.
Perfect. Last time I clicked on it, an ad was playing in the background, so I'm not going to click on it again. So I think he's a sleeper pick for me, along with the next draft pick for the Colts, JT Tuimoloau from Ohio State.
Crazy, yeah.
I did.
All name team.
I kind of want to say he was the best defender on Ohio State defense, in my personal opinion. I think Sayre?
Oh, Jack Sawyer?
Yeah. I never thought he was all that great. He's just a really good leader.
Yeah.
I think he's one of those guys that physically he's not the best, but his leadership shines through and kind of hides it.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. He's still a great player. He still kicked my ass.
Exactly.
But then again, I'm in my 40s, so he better kick my ass.
This kind of linebacker is similar to quarterback, where they want the leaders and the rah-rah guys and everything, and you get more of the credit. But I agree. I think that JT, he was always – your eye would go to JT before it would go to Jack Sawyer, I feel like.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I don't know how many times watching Ohio State play, and it's JT. And it's like, fuck, dude, really? Another one, Ollie Gordon, going to Miami.
Yeah.
He had a really good year 2 years ago. Last year, I don't know what was going on. I don't know if he was banged up or what happened.
It was weird.
It was really, really weird how that worked out for him. But I think he went in the 6th round. So he's kind of my sleeper pick. With Miami, we'll see what McDaniels can do with him. My questionable picks would definitely be Riley Leonard. Why is Indianapolis selecting another quarterback?
And they have like the same type guy. To me, Riley Leonard feels a lot like young Joe Flacco, who they just had a couple seasons ago. Okay. And
he's more like Richardson with just as accurate of arm.
That's true.
Maybe not as big.
Now I'm doing the race thing. I'm doing tall white guy who looks goofy. So I apologize, America. But you're right. They do have two because Richardson's giant. They do have two giant quarterbacks who cannot throw the ball.
Yeah. Riley might not be that big, but I think he was second on Notre Dame in rushing, maybe even first.
Yeah, that's how they play offense there, like it's the 1930s. Yeah, so
exactly. Graham Mertz getting drafted. I forgot he even existed until you got drafted.
I did not, because the Graham Mertz highlight package they showed on ESPN was a Florida game against South Carolina. I was at the game, and we made him look like Patrick Mahomes. It was not this last season, but the season before. And he was just, they came back and beat us. And it was one of the worst secondary performances I've ever seen. And he was just picking us apart. And that's like most of their footage for him being good was that. So he owes the state of South Carolina a mighty big thank you, because
this is money.
Something, man. Like, I had to watch through that. I still think about it. I was very triggered watching that highlight tape, because it was just, oh, there's a Gamecock defender, and there's a Gamecock defender, and there's another. Oh, there we go. So Yeah, always that was a shocker too. Graham Mertz, I did not see that one coming, but maybe they were like, well, if we can get him to do that every game, not every defense looks like how we looked that season without the GOAT, Kyle Kennard.
And then my last sleeper pick is going to be Jimmy Horn Jr. Yes, I'm a Nebraska fan. I hate Colorado, but there was times where I watched Colorado and I felt like Horn Jr. was better than Travis Hunter on the field. And so I think him going to Carolina, I think it was a sixth round, or was he sixth round?
Sixth round pick. Rounder? He was drafted after Graham Mertz.
He was, wasn't he? But I feel like he's my sleeper pick. My biased sleeper picks, because there's only two to choose from, would be Ty Robinson going to Philadelphia, which I think that's a great opportunity for him. He's going to a culture that's probably very similar to what Nebraska has, but it's in Philadelphia, so it's a little bit more edgier. And what's funny is he played with Cam Jurgensen at Nebraska.
Huh.
The starting center and $68 million contract.
Reunited.
They played together. And then I think a sleeper pick, which would be the other pick, would be Thomas Fidone III. He's a tight end. He was drafted by the Giants. He had ACL issues since he came in. He was a top tight end coming in several years ago when Frost was there. I blew his ACL out, I think, during winter workouts. And then he came back, and then he blew his ACL out again during a spring game. And from what I understand, Rule kind of told him, hey, go to the NFL. Just go. You had a decent year last year, 33 catches for 370-something yards, I believe it was. He's 6'6". He's 230-ish. He's a big body. I feel like if he can stay healthy, I think, especially in New York right now, since they don't really have a whole lot of production at the tight end spot, I think he can get on the field and be a decent starter for him. So I only had two Nebraska players to choose from, which is more than what I could say in the past couple of years.
They're both good picks too. So,
man. I think the only thing that held Robinson back was he's 24, 25 years old. If he's younger, I could see him being a second rounder, maybe a high third rounder. From what I heard today, as I was listening to a radio station out of Lincoln, was that he was probably going to be a third rounder, but some trades happened in the third round that caused the Eagles to kind of hold off a little bit on drafting him.
Huh.
So
interesting insight. Yeah. So
insight.
That is nice. Some Nebraska football insight. Well, I think we've covered it.
Well, I have a thing for you, not a thing, but a question mark, I guess, more than anything else. You know, I said his name earlier, and he hasn't been drafted, to my knowledge. Donovan Edwards out of Michigan. Like, what happened? 2 years ago, he was probably going to be a top 4-round pick, maybe. And this year, he's not even drafted. So
I'm trying to see. So he did sign with the Jets, undrafted free agent. That was that was weird because, like, when they were winning the national championship, even the year before, he was super productive.
Yeah.
I guess the only thing I can figure. Have a
great year, but none of Michigan's offense did.
I think that. I guess the only thing I can figure is that, like, he stayed too long, and then scouts were able to pick him apart a little bit too much because, I couldn't believe he didn't get drafted. He wasn't their lead guy, but he was enough of a dynamic playmaker that I thought, because who was it? Corum, I guess, was their lead back, but he was enough of an elite guy, like a explosive guy, that I thought, he will go somewhere. But I guess just sticking around that one extra year, and obviously Harbaugh left and everyone from that national championship team pretty much left. And it wasn't a huge dip in production, but it was enough to where now he's got to go play for the Jets.
So, I'm surprised he didn't go to LA early in. I figured Harbaugh would have called him and brought him in. I mean, how Harbaugh went and signed DJ. Yeah. With an undrafted free agent's contract. So why didn't he go after Donovan is just. I thought that was weird. I was paying attention, but I wasn't paying attention. Like I was paying attention enough, going, "What the fuck was that guy's name?"
Yeah.
And then it hit me like in the 7th round. I was like, "Oh shit, Donovan Edwards." I'm looking, I can't find his name anywhere. I was like, did he not get drafted? And sure enough, he didn't. Signed the undrafted free agent with the Jets, and it's like, fuck. What happened? Because he was probably a first round draft pick 2 years ago.
Because he ran 4.4 at the combine. I had to pull it up to make sure I didn't miss anything at the combine. I don't know. It's just a weird thing. Probably a little bit too of the running back position being devalued now as well, except for my guy Genty. But I don't know. That was weird.
Yeah, I think there's some red flags there that no one's talking about.
Yeah,
but we don't know if they are. Could this be they didn't like his production, or he's undersized in their opinion, or they valued other guys ahead of him, or something? I don't know. But I thought that was a surprise to me.
Someone give us a call, let us know. But I think we've covered everything that needs to be covered. But now we need to let the people know about Turn the Page Travel. I know you got some cool sports travel packages as well. Everything going on. Where can they find you? How can they travel to the Super Bowl? Maybe Disney World after their team wins the Super Bowl. Let everybody know.
Well, Turn the Page Travel. You can go to turnthepagetravel.com. Paige, Paige. Right now, there are Super Bowl packages available. You have to contact me on our website, or you can follow us at Turn the Page Travel _LLC, I believe it is, on Instagram. I could be wrong on that. I should know that.
I'll put it in the show notes.
Right now, I'm sorry?
I'll put it in the show notes. Don't worry. We'll make it easy for them to find you.
Right now, we're taking deposits for the Super Bowl. You get hospitality, you get tickets. Some packages will include accommodations. We're also offering packages to probably my favorite game, one of them, because it's called Farmageddon. It's Kansas State, Iowa State. It is being held in Ireland this year, August 23rd to the 25th. We have 2 different packages available, one for Iowa State fans, one for Kansas State fans. And there's a bunch of other stuff we're offering. We also offer golf packages. If you're a golfer, you want to go play the Old Course in Scotland, you want to go play at Pebble Beach, if you want to play Brendan Dunes, if you want to play the Triangle in Wisconsin, we offer great packages there where you get golf, you get accommodations, and you get transfers. What am I missing? We've got tickets for the Open, which is the big tournament in England. It's Northern Scotland this year. No, shit, it's Ireland this year. Northern Ireland this year. My apologies. We got packages for that. Accommodations, again, hotels. Only thing we don't cover are flights. We can do flights. We just don't cover that. All-Star game packages for the MLB All-Star game being held in Atlanta this year. We have several hospitality packages for those. All you got to do is go to turnthepagetravel.com. Paige is Paige. Just go down to the contact list, reach out to me, and I can get you guys squared away, or at least give you the information you need. We also do cruises. We also do ground tours. Disneyland's a big thing right now. If you're looking for Disneyland, Disneyland's doing 30% off. Disneyland, not Disney World, are doing 30% off their hotels on select rooms. Disney World starting in 2026. If you know anything about Disney World, they have dining plans. Kids will eat free, as long as the adult has the dining plan. So it's that will save you a couple $100 for Disney World. Just reach out to me at turnthepagetravel.com, and we will get you all that information and get you booked and sent out to see the Mouse, to see Farmageddon. Come out here to San Francisco for the Super Bowl. Send it to Atlanta. If you want to go to Coachella next year, I can set you up at Coachella as well.
Coachella, yes. That is incredible. I forgot that it was Farmageddon being held in Ireland. And that was a really good game last year. I really enjoyed watching. That's where I watched Jaden Higgins.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah, that's where I formed most of my Jaden Higgins take. So, yes, this will be in the show notes. Reach out and travel. Get out, see the world.
Exactly. This is the best time as any to go out. We have deals on cruises if you want to cruise. Some cruise ships are going like $1,200 for a stateroom. You get dining, you get drinks, you get excursions for 3 to 5 nights, $1,200. It's not bad.
Boom.
That's all I got.
There we go.
Put me on the spot, and I figured it out somehow.
You did it. You crushed it.
And I can't remember my own Instagram handle.
We'll work on that. All right, man. Appreciate you coming on. This has been a lot of fun. I can't wait to lie about being right about these takes in the future, because I will do that.
Sure.
Yeah, this has been another episode, special edition, Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. That means you're probably not going to get one on Sunday because you got this one early. So you're welcome. Thank you for watching, listening, rating, subscribing, reviewing, and sharing. And I will catch y'all later.
Thanks, Brandon.